Iran's foreign ministry has once again rejected Washington's offer of negotiations with Tehran, saying that talks and war cannot go together. In a tweet, Mohammad Javad Zarif highlighted what he called the U.S. economic terrorism against Iranian civilians. In a video message on his Twitter post, the top Iranian diplomat also turned the spotlight on the plight of a mother who cannot get prosthetic legs for her little boy due to U.S. sanctions. Zarif's comments came after U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Washington is keen to hold negotiations with Iran with no preconditions. U.S. offer of talks comes despite its deployment of an aircraft carrier strike group in the Persian Gulf last month in response to what it called Iran's threat. Tehran has repeatedly said that it is not seeking a conflict with Washington, but will not hesitate to defend itself against foreign aggressors. Jason Unruhe, political commentator, is joining us live from Ontario regarding the same piece of news that we were just talking about. Now, Mr. Unruhe, what is your take on the comments made by Zarif? He has said that war and talks do not go together. How much do you agree with Mr. Zarif?
I would tend to agree with this statement in general. I mean, you cannot say that you are trying to negotiate while you're essentially holding a gun to the person's head. That's not a negotiation. That's not coming to the table in good faith. If the United States was truly interested in working out some kind of a deal, there's an original JCPOA deal right there that could simply be returned to, and it wouldn't require any negotiations whatsoever. Everybody could just, the United States could just simply agree to abide by what is already there, and they illegally withdrew from anyway. So this idea that the United States wants to negotiate, this is a complete 180 from their entire actions, which began over a year ago, in which they just left the agreement and have now carried out provocative acts against the country, including economic sanctions, military buildups inside the region, etc. So on what basis can the United States claim that it is simply trying to negotiate or wants Iran to come to the negotiating table without preconditions? It seems that the United States has already forced preconditions on them by sending military forces to the region and blocking food, medicines, and as we saw with the example given, a prosthetic leg for a child. What kind of, no precondition is this? I mean, this is very clearly an act of economic terrorism against the country. This is almost holding someone by the shirt with your fist and saying that you're just merely talking to them. This is absolute nonsense. This is part of a larger geopolitical strategy being carried out by the United States. Since the previous agreement was unable to cause the destabilization of Iran, as no doubt was intended by the United States, the U.S. has now switched to a new tactic. They claim that Iran violated the agreement when they didn't, accuse them of a terrorist attack against the United Arab Emirates, which they certainly had no part of, in order to demonize the country, in order to justify new sanctions and attacks on the country. I think that the United States is looking for a new way to try to destabilize Iran. The first step is, of course, to reinstate sanctions which had no legal basis to be put on them to begin with, because they had not violated the agreement. And now they're going to look for new measures. They're probably going to write a new deal, which would be even harsher for Iran, one that would make things even more difficult, while trying to play the good guy as somehow having come to the table and creating an agreement that would minimize the creation of nuclear weapons inside the region. Meanwhile, their ally Israel has all kinds of nuclear weapons, which has no oversight whatsoever, and has been previously mentioned on several occasions, nuclear weapons possibly under development inside of Saudi Arabia as well. This is all a large act of political theater by the United States to portray itself as the defender of freedom and democracy when it is the greatest murderer of poor people around the world, and attempting to demonize Iran in this situation. And the foreign minister is certainly pointing out real things that the world should pay attention to when trying to view this situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jason Unruhe, political commentator, with his elaborations regarding the